Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey of My Mother's Son podcast. Today, I'm joined with Kathleen Flanagan, who's national and international multi-award-winning author of Dancing Souls, Merging Heaven and Earth, Book 1, The Call, and her second book, just out, Dark Night of the Soul. She's also founder and CEO of Awakening Spirit, Inc. Kathleen, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your most recent book. I know you kind of have a theory that the world is crazy around us, which I completely agree with you on. But then you also mentioned that we don't really have to participate in it, which I think is a pretty unique way to look at it, and I love that. And I think it's so true that, no matter what the storm is going on around us, we don't necessarily have to partake of that. So, tell me a little bit about, what kind of brought you to that theory and, how we go about not participating in the chaos that's surrounding us.
Okay, well, the book Dancing Souls is actually a trilogy. So this is my journey of waking up, and this all happened in 2008. It started more like 2007, but it was a year of intense, accelerated growth. And at that point in time, I really wanted to just be a different person. I wanted my life to change. I wasn't happy with where I was. I didn't like the results of my life. And as much as I wanted to say I was a victim, I knew better, because it's easier to blame somebody else than ourselves. So I ended up moving to Chicago during that period of time. So I got out of like the familiar environment, went into a very unique environment. I was supported and had many people around me and supported me and were friends. And some of them I had met 6 months prior. And it was a very challenging and difficult time. But I wanted something different. And that was the main thing, is that there was that burning desire inside of me to have something different. So writing the book and experiencing it, I didn't fully understand at the time what I was going through, but I do now. And when 2020 hit, it was like, oh my God. It was like I was walking through 2020 10 years earlier. And what I found during that period of time was, when we're in the dark night of the soul, and that's when there's no light in these dark recesses of ourselves. So we do things, we think things, we act a certain way, but we don't know what that is or why it is. But we're victims of our environment, so to speak, because we inherit all these paradigms from our parents. So as a young child, we just pick up whatever we're seeing because we feel everything. We don't have any reasoning capacity to it. And we move in that direction, and then that kind of stays with us the rest of our lives, unless we decide to do something different. And so my burning desire to want to be a better person and not continually be how I was, how I took everything personally, being insecure, being afraid, all of that. I was over it. And I faced some pretty dark, intense stuff. But I also had some of the most amazing revelations and realizations at the same time. So when 2020 hit, and I remember thinking, oh my God, I remember this when I was a young child, that this was going to be here. And I had no intentions of participating in the craziness of a world when it was going to do this. Because I always told myself, I'm not going to be part of that. I don't have to be part of that craziness. And so I did. I went down deep inside and looked at what the fears were, and I had to keep working through this and find a different perspective of what was occurring. And what I realized, if I stayed in the fear and terror of the COVID-19 virus, I was going to be like everyone else, living in fear and feeling like I'm being controlled, and I was a victim and all of that. And I didn't believe in that at all. And what I did is I started changing my perspective to look at things differently. Like, look at how the earth started to healing. Look at the waters that were changing. Look at California, we're seeing air, blue skies for the first time. I mean, there was so much spiritual awakening that was happening that was so amazing to me. And I dialed in and stayed focused on that. Then I started and then I went into podcasting. I started interviewing, I think in 2021, and so many people that I was talking to in 2020, they decided to do something because they were trying to take control of their lives back, because we didn't have to be part of this insanity. And what I found during that was I was the same way. So when the year was up, I said I was done. I wasn't going to participate. I wasn't doing the isolation. I wasn't going to do any of that anymore. And I had to really focus in and laser beam my attention, because I felt like my brain had gone to mush. Because when you're not really working or doing anything and you're sitting at home, it's like, what all do you do at home for a year besides watch TV or eat, or try to think of something to do to entertain yourself? Taking up cooking is fine, but that puts on weight if you're not out there active. So, there was lots of different things I had to focus in on. So when I went back to work, it was like I'm dialing in, and it was like I had to laser beam my brain and get it like functioning again, because it didn't seem like it was functioning, like I was in this lethargic place. And so it was like, what do you want? And it was like, I want to make money. I want to help people. I want to get out there on the speaking circuit. I want to, talk to people about, take responsibility. It's your life. You're not a victim to our world. And that's what I started to do and focused in. And I think the biggest part of this change that occurred was that I really saw the biggest one was when I bought my new house that I'm in December, because it was like something was telling me to go ahead and move. And I was like, okay, let's do this. Well, I had created a paradigm of total, like, I thought I was going to be on the streets, because I created that paradigm because I couldn't get the loan when I first bought my house. And I had to live with my business partner for a couple of weeks. So I created that, well, I'll be homeless. So I had to fight that idea of I'm going to be homeless. But what happened was that I focused in so much on what I wanted and where I wanted to be. I was like, I needed more space. I was like claustrophobic because my house was too small and I was growing. And it was like, it was representative of my life. And when I did that, it was like, when I bought this house, it was like, oh my God, it was like, there was this space, and it was like, and I moved through a paradigm that I had that I was so unaware of, and that I actually shifted something in my thinking, like I don't deserve to have a bigger house, or why do you need a bigger house? Things that people tell you, like, what do you need a big house for? Because I need space, because I want it, just because I want it. That's good enough. And people don't think that's good enough, but it is good enough. And when I got into the house, it was like, oh my God. And it was like I had shifted so many rungs on the ladder, because I had really pushed myself, because I actually thought I was having a heart attack when I go to bed, like I wasn't breathing. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And I felt that because the fear of the paradigm was so encased in my body that I thought I was going to die. And I was like, you're fine. And if you die, it's okay. Because people think that if they feel that, then they shouldn't be moving forward because they think something's happening. But when we're in this paradigm that we have, and we're moving through that dark place to bring light on those dark recesses of ourselves, you have to go through that. You have to feel that fear. Because once you shift it, it's like this whole new world opens up to you. You've got a whole new set of tools in your tool belt. The world can't control you anymore. Well, pretty much they can't, because now you have something more that you did. You took responsibility, you moved it. You're not a victim. So even though COVID's still going on, it's like, but I don't have to live that way. I have this other world I'm creating. And that's what I was proving to myself, is that even if COVID's going on, I'm still in control of my life. People are still buying houses. People are still doing work. I was working all through COVID. Did I think I was an essential worker? No, but apparently I was. I mean, what a weird name to put on people working. No, I still have bills to pay. I certainly I didn't collect unemployment. I didn't do any of that, And that was the thing, is that I'm still responsible for me. And that was how I felt, that when you're in that dark night of the soul that the world is in, because people are confused right now. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what they think. They don't know what they want. And they have to sit there and do that hard look at themselves, because that's what you do. That's what you have to do in order to change the world that you're living in if you don't like it. And that's not an easy thing to do, is to sit there and stare at yourself and look at what you did and what you created. But the minute you decide you want something different, the universe has a way of opening and supporting you and bring you to that. But you have to do the work to work with that as a co-creator. And I think 2020 allowed me to see more and do more and feel more confident, because if the world needs to change more than anything, it's today. It's today. I mean, this world is, I don't know this world anymore. I'm glad I'm not 20. That's all I know.
Yeah. It's, I can relate to what you're saying there, because, even though Sandy and I had made the decision to sell all our stuff and move into an RV in actually 2019, all of that didn't take place until 2020. And, we'd first put our house in the market in January of 2020. And, it had been on the market. It was kind of moving slowly. The market hadn't taken off like it did toward the end of 2020. And, but we were still, just moving forward with our plans. We weren't really in a rush. Whenever it happened, it happened. And, the day we actually bought our RV, I'll never forget it, because it was March 20th of 2020, which was the exact same day that the governor of Pennsylvania was issuing the shutdown orders. And we were also, at that point, real estate was literally shutting down as well. So we were having conversations already with our realtor about taking our house off the market. Sandy had been told that she would continue to work remotely, but she was actually in a temp position. So we didn't know for sure how long that would last. And we're sitting there in the RV dealership with like all this, uncertainty just kind of swirling around us. But yet an incredible peace as well, because it was never, part of our plan to have an RV payment and continue to have a mortgage payment. The whole concept was sell the house, buy the RV, hit the road sort of thing. And that definitely wasn't the way things were playing out. But yet there was still kind of this incredible peace while we were doing that, just have faith and, continue to move forward. And that's what we did. And, brought the RV home, and it sat in the yard for a couple months. We took a couple like weekend test trips to some various spots. And then beginning of June, real estate market opened back up in Pennsylvania, and we had 4 showings and had an offer. And at that point, things were on the go for sure. So we, settled in August of 2020 and hit the road. And again, it was very freeing for us, kind of somewhat the opposite of what you did, where you were looking to get more space, where we were, really looking to minimize our space, going from a 3,500 square foot house to about a 300 square foot RV. But, even with, still kind of being in the heart of COVID, it didn't really affect us a whole lot. I mean, it affected us in the fact that, one of the reasons we wanted to do this was to be able to connect, with kind of that campground RV community. And early on, people were still kind of keeping their distance and keeping their space, but, we were still traveling, and we were still seeing things and experiencing things that we had never, experienced in our lives, at that point already. So, that was kind of our way of, not participating in what was going on. We kind of created our own, circle of what we were doing, and continue to, be able to live free, so to speak. So, for people who are struggling, and having difficulty kind of separating, the craziness from, creating their own space. I mean, what is your advice to, people who are just, they know they want to do it, but they just can't figure out how to create that separation?
Well, I would say the first thing is really know what you want and make sure that you really love the idea, because it's going to be loving the idea and staying focused on that and visualizing what you think you will feel like and what your life will be with that, to hold that in your mind. Because that's what you and your wife did. You held your vision in your mind. And even though it didn't look like it was going to come together, you still believed it would. And that's the power of our mind, because our mind will create what we want. We have to just keep living through it, keep believing, keep having the faith, and do whatever you can do. So when you weren't ready, or you couldn't sell your house and you had the RV and you were kind of in that little in-between space, well, that's what it looked like while it was all coming together. And so sometimes that's what you have to do, because we live in a 7-Eleven society. We should have everything yesterday because the microwave's too slow. But that's not life. Life takes time, and things will manifest as quickly as you get to your vibration. As soon as your vibration matches what you want, it will manifest. So a lot of times we have a lot of head trash we have to go through. We have a lot of our own interior dialogues, that I'm not deserving, I'm not worthy. What makes you think you can have this? I mean, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, your siblings, people are in your head, and they're not your voices, they're their voices, and you're not distinguishing between those two. So that burning desire is the most important thing. And then staying focused in on it. I mean, write it down 50 times a day if you have to just start shifting your energy. Because that's really important, and what do you think it would feel like? What would it feel like to have this? What would I feel like? What would my world look like? And live from there. Come from that place as if you already have it, because that's what you and your wife did. You already were doing it before you ever got on the road. Because things happen twice. We first create it in our mind, and then it manifests. So an idea, that's how our minds work. We have to create it in our mind. So when I wanted to be a better person, did I know what that looked like? No. All I knew is that I didn't want to have the angst that I had inside of me anymore. I didn't want the head trash. I didn't want everybody telling me I'm not worthy and deserving. I was so over that. And as far as I was concerned, I was way too old to be even having my mother run my life at that age, And I had to really put a stop to it. And so whatever it took to do it, and it was a lot, I did it. So I think that's the main thing, is have that burning desire and then come from as if you already have it, and never stop believing, because it will happen. We're the ones that stop it.
Yeah, I love that. Couple times in there you mentioned the term head trash. Give my listeners a little bit of a more definitive definition of what is head trash.
Head trash is paradigms, as far as I'm concerned, where you're hearing, if you're doing something and making a shift or change in your life, what's the first thing that comes up? What are you doing this? Why are you doing this? Do you have any idea what you're doing? Do you realize you're making me scared? This is your ego talking. It's going to stop you because it wants to remain comfortable. It doesn't care if you're miserable. It wants to be comfortable. So when you start moving and changing who you are, you're going to have your paradigms coming up, screaming at you, saying, what are you doing? Your mom's voice is going to come in, your dad, who's ever very powerful in your mind, will show up. Because a lot of people, they think they want to support you in your dream, but if you change, that means they have to change, because we affect our world. And they don't necessarily want to change around them. So that's how I call it, is when my dogs are barking in my head about that I'm unworthy, undeserving, who do I think I am? You should just settle. God didn't, you didn't have to create this. God doesn't need this. Your rewards will be in heaven. All that garbage. That's all head trash to me. because my reward is not in heaven. My reward is here. I mean, we're not here to suffer. We were never designed to suffer, but we suffer.
Yeah. Yeah, we sure do. So what was there a specific incident in your life that made you want to kind of, you talked about, I believe it was 2008, where you kind of started to go through this paradigm shift and this spiritual awakening. Was there a specific incident that created that shift and made you want to change?
I have been on this path my whole life. It actually started at 16. And I just had a lot of garbage. And I have dealt with, because without realizing it on many levels, my past was running my life. I have been a victim of severe abuse, mental, emotional, physical. It's there. There's, I wanted to die. I was suicidal. I did not want to live. I did not want to have the life of my parents. I thought if this is what it was, there was just so much self-loathing that I had for myself and I spent a lifetime doing this. And when 2007 hit, I just realized, I woke up because I was in a relationship that was ending. And it's like, I keep creating the same kind of guy. I keep creating the same stuff. When is this going to stop? And it's like, well, you have to do this. I'm like, yeah, but I don't even know where this is coming from. Well, a lot of it's my father. I mean, I could take pieces of things from my mom. I could take pieces from my dad. I could take pieces from my relatives of all the things that they said to me over the years. And even if I reacted to it, and I was a very, 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 very angry person. And I didn't even know how to speak because I was told I wasn't allowed to communicate. We don't want to hear it, because I called my father a hypocrite when I was 6 years old, and boy, did I get nailed for that one. I didn't even know what I was saying when I said it, because it was, well, I don't have to do what you say, Dad, because you do something different. And I didn't know what I had done, but I got nailed for it. So, I mean, like things along those lines, those were things that kept my mouth shut. It was things along those lines that were so traumatizing on many levels. I left my body because I couldn't handle the abuse anymore. And I've had enough dreams and meditations and things to tell me and show me what happened. And, and that came to a forefront again in around 2007. Well, it was afterwards. It was in about 2010, 15, that things came to a head again, because there was a person that sent me illicit pictures, and I ended up taking them to court. And I thought I had resolved all of that when I hadn't. I mean, I had, but it was like the final layer of actually being heard in front of a judge and saying my piece, where I was no longer the victim. I was now, I was like healed, recovered, a survivor. That's the word, survivor. And I think all those steps that I took to be better helped to remove all of where I went. And I just wanted to be in control of my life instead of everybody and everything controlling me.
Yeah. And I think, we all go through a lot of different, traumatic experiences as we're growing up. I don't think we really understand them at the time, that it's traumatic at that time and how that's going to affect you, later on in adulthood and really your entire life. So for somebody who's in a space where, they still haven't gotten past some of those past traumas and dealing with things, like where do they have to get to be able to address everything that happened in the past and be able to now actually move forward in a positive manner?
What I did, I mean, part of it is I did a lot of healing work. I went to people that I could trust that actually have been through it, because, you got your people out there that say, I can do this and charge a lot of money, and then they don't do anything, or they talk a line, but they don't talk about the emotional feeling, because it's the feelings that have to be released. And when I was doing a lot of this, I discovered sound therapy in the process, and I am a sound therapist as well. And that was what happens in what I did when I discovered doing this and started taking on clients with doing sound therapy, was that I was releasing it because we hold everything in our body on a cellular level and we bring it forward in our past lives. And most people will never touch the areas that we hide things because we will hide them in the most remote places where nobody will ever access. I know how to get there. And I access it. But what I found with the sound is that it releases it and you don't have to relive it or talk about it. Now, you might emotionally cry and all of that will happen, but you want to be able to just be in a safe place, because when I went to Chicago in 2007 in January of that year, before my life really shifted, I worked on a lot of people that a friend of mine had put together. And these people, I dealt with a police officer who had been shot and stabbed and, beaten up and all sorts of things. I dealt with sexually abused people. I dealt with a woman who had cancer, and I gave her the decision to live or die because she could live if she wanted to, because I was told that I healed her, but she has to believe that. So what happens is with sound and working with people, and not just necessarily sound, but there's different modalities, but sound is one of the biggest ones that helped me, because even when my mother passed away, I couldn't get out of this grief place that I was in, and it was very dark. And Spirit had told me, just get in the tub, put these essential oils in it, and then take the fork and hit it and put it in the water, which I did. And I swear I went, like, my brain shook, because it was like the synapses in my brain were reconnecting or being reconnected. So I could get out of that deep darkness. So that's one way of talking, because, I don't think necessarily talking to a therapist is always the best thing, because you're reliving it and that doesn't mean you're bringing closure, but you need to feel like you can trust it, and somebody who really understands it can feel it and then give you tools to work through it. But you have to let it go. And sometimes we don't know how to let it go. So there are techniques that I would recommend that they find somebody who actually has techniques to help release it, because as I released it, when that final situation happened with that kid, I didn't have any emotion to it. I wasn't happy. I didn't want to do what I did, but I did it anyways because I needed to.
Yeah. So now, part of what you do with, the publication of the books and what you do with your website is really helping people, deal with that. Why did you think it was important for you to really kind of give back and help people, through your experiences, get to a space where you are now?
Nobody should have to go through and live with abuses and traumas their whole life. Nobody. And I know that I'm a piece of cake compared to other people. I don't think that I had the worst life. Other people might think I did, but I don't. Because I never wanted to see myself that way. I still felt somehow that I should be able to get through life. And to me though, when I finally started waking up and where I am today, I just tell myself it's okay that it took this long, because that was what you needed. You lived through all of this. Everything that I have on my website, I did. They worked for me. And yes, it's a process, because when you're dealing with so much trauma, it takes time, because it's a layering of an onion and you have to be patient. And so now that I'm on the bulk of the other side of it, it's like, it's okay. It's like, it's not like you didn't stop ever working on yourself. It's just you had so much garbage to get out from underneath it to find who you were to begin with. But, when you start, you're just like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? And once I finally got to the bottom of it, that's when it was like, now I know how to get to where I want to go. Now these tools are working, because I felt like they were working, but I couldn't see that yet, because I still felt the same inside. And now that I've gotten down into the core of who I am and remembering who I am, and believe me, I know who I am and I have seen who I am. And I'm amazed. And every single one of us are what I saw who I was. Every single one of us. We're all incredibly magnificent beings, and we are just crammed into a tiny body, and then people diminish us. And there's no reason, because we all have these amazing gifts. We just have to find them, because I'm not Joe Blow over here or Susie over here. I'm me, and I have to find that. And that's where our power comes from, is when we discover what that is. I mean, even today, I'm redoing my website going, nobody wants this. Nobody wants this. And I'm like, oh, give it a rest. I mean, the paradigm still comes in. And it's like, they just don't know it's here yet. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Once they know it's here and they understand it, and that's why I give this little 3-minute sound meditation to de-stress your life, is just because you start breathing again. It gets you back in balance for your day, because you have to start out at a good place. If you don't start at a good place, if you're in a bad place, it's just going to get worse. Yep. So that's how I see it. That's what I think.
Yeah. So what's your morning routine like to make sure you're starting off in a good place?
Well, the first thing I do before I get out of bed is I am grateful that I woke up, because not everybody wakes up. And then I go through like a list of gratitudes, of what I want, and grateful that even if it's not fully here today, it's still here, of, like, what do I want? And thank you for this. And thank you. I mean, it's just a lot of gratitude of like feeling comfortable in my skin, that I have this new home. I have a great relationship. I have work. I mean, things like that. And then, just that we have blue skies and we have a beautiful planet, and what can I do to help her? And so I go through that, and then I will generally write down, like, I reflect on my day in the morning instead of at night. I do it in the morning, of reflect, and then what was I grateful for? What did I learn? And then I listen to inspirational videos, like, just things that keep me to remind myself, where I write my goal every day, that I'm so happy and grateful now that, and this or something better. So I kind of write the goal of what I want. And it's a big one. It's not something that's going to happen tomorrow. It's something that's going to actually transform me. And then listen to inspirational videos, or continue learning, or to keep reminding myself. Like, I was listening to Earl Nightingale about the sacred word, and which is your attitude. And I listened to that every day for about 2 months. And it was amazing what that did for my thinking, and not reacting to like crazy drivers or crazy people anymore. It was like just thinking like that, like I'm shifting into a higher vibration. And that just puts me in a good place. And then I recently just started walking every day, and I do yoga once a day. So it was like, but I had to get myself there, because I'm a ballroom dancer, but I haven't been able to dance for a while. So it's like, I got to do something else. And exercise in my brain is like, dancing's not exercise. And dancing is probably the most intense exercise you can ever do. But to me, that was easy. So I had to shift my thinking into getting there, and like walking or doing yoga or whatever I'm doing is not exercise. And you know what? It worked, because it's like, because I had to get out of that I'm exercising and go into, well, what do you want to look like and what do you want to feel? Well, I want to lose a few pounds. No, it's not lose, because then it'll come back. I want to release weight, and I want to look like this, and I want to wear this size. And I'm visualizing this new image of myself, because, that was another one, is looking at your self-image, because that was a big one for me, of like, whoa, this is big. I really need to look at this. And because of that self-image that I was doing, it allowed me to like, okay, going to the gym, I love it. You'd never hear that from me my whole life. You couldn't get that out of me. I exercise, I'll play softball, I'll swim, I'll do all that, but don't tell me it's exercise.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to trick your own mind. I mean, that's the power of our minds.
Yeah. And I love that. And I find myself, one of my big ways to really put myself in a positive space in the morning is to walk, preferably in nature, but even if it's just walking around the neighborhood, that helps a lot as well. And there are times when I'm not necessarily, I feel like I'm too busy. I've got a big day scheduled ahead of me. I might, be, pushing it a little too, close if I take a walk. And, in that regard, my golden retriever keeps me grounded, because he's like, no, let's go. We're going for a walk. We're going for a walk. And it's funny, on the days where I'm fighting it the most, once I actually get out there and doing it, are the days I end up feeling the best, while doing it, and just, breathing that fresh air. And, especially again, if we're able to get out into nature and take a little hike, that's even more so. But, there are some times where, we just finished a little renovation project on our RV, and, it's been super, super hot here in Pennsylvania where we're at right now. So I really wasn't able to walk, because I had to get up early, when it was still, somewhat even remotely cool, just to get a little bit of work done before it got just too completely sweltering hot. So there were several days in a row where I didn't, walk, and I could definitely see a decrease in my attitude, much more of a negative attitude and that sort of stuff. And it's just, like you said, finding that balance and just figuring it out how you can fit it in, because it shows just how necessary it is to, whatever that is, to help you get balanced and help you get grounded, to start your day off. Again, it can be 100 different things for 100 different people, but whatever that is, like, it is really important to start your day, that way, without a doubt. So I can definitely relate to, to what you're saying in that regard. And do you kind of find the same thing, that if, if you find yourself getting out of that routine, how it creates some negative vibrations? And I guess how do you stay in that to just make sure you don't go down that way of putting it off, just to, really stressing the fact that it has to happen?
Well, I'm not quite there yet on having that experience. But
I'm
I
good.
did notice.
I'm good. I'm with you on that. Then.
Yeah.
I'm glad
yeah.
I'm not alone.
I mean, I take Saturday and Sunday off. Those are the 2 days, but I walk 5 days a week. If I'm going to do a job or work, I try to be at the gym at 7 a.m. in the morning at the latest. Monday, however, it took me forever, it felt like, to get to the gym. And I was in a pissy mood too, until I got there, because it's like, Kath, what are you doing? And I don't know what was happening in my morning that was causing this delay of getting to the gym. And I finally got there, I think probably about 8:20. And to me, the day was over. It wasn't, but in your own mind, I thought it was. And then I'm pissing, and I'm like, and I kept telling myself, it's okay. It's okay. You have all day to get to the gym. You're okay. It's like, yeah, but I know, I get it. And it was just one of those things, because Tuesday I go at 10 o'clock is when my yoga class is. And to me, that's way late. But you know what? I got this switch thing going. So it's like, it's okay, because my life after 10 is fine. Because it's like, then I have this extended morning, and then I have 10, and then I do the rest of it. So, but that was the thing, is, to me, I got grumpy at myself because I wasn't out the door at 7 a.m. in the morning. Like, you deserve to take care of yourself, like all of a sudden this self-care became very critical in my own mind. And it's because of my self-image that I believe that I'm holding for myself of, my future self. She's working out. She's happy. She's thin. She's active. She's happy. She's smiling. She's laughing. She's dancing. And it's because I'm doing what makes me happy. And that day that for whatever reason happened on Monday, it was like, oh no, this is not my future self. And oh no, I'm not going back to this old girl. No, this old girl. No, that old Kathleen. No, she's gone. Don't like her. She's bitchy. So I think that was it, is just, if you have this image of your mind of who you want to be and what you want to look like and how you want to feel, The minute you don't do it, you're growling at yourself. So it's like, well, that's kind of cool, because that means my paradigm shift of, I don't feel like going and doing anything, to, oh, I have to do this. I've always wanted that kind of a mindset, and I finally got it. And it's because of the self-image. I mean, I'm paying attention to what's happened and why it's happening for me. And I think that's the main thing, is people need to start noticing what they're noticing. If you're feeling grumpy, why? What happened?
Yeah, that is important. And like I said, that was a time, during that week there, where it was really evident to me, what was missing for sure. So I love that. And I think being self-aware of what's missing is pretty important. So we're just about out of time. But anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about before I get to my final question?
No, I think I've covered everything.
All right. So how do people get a hold of Kathleen? What's the website? Where can they get the books? All that fun stuff.
Well, I have a website, it's KathleenMFlanagan.com. And I have a list of all my services. My books are there. My books are on Amazon as well. You can get the Kindle, so that there's access. I'm all over the place, like wherever people can buy their books, I'm there. And then I have a list of services of what I do. And I'm also starting to get into the speaking circuit. So I talk about being happy and staying happy. Change is being happy and staying happy. So I'm giving out guidelines, and I'm also in the process of starting to create programs around that as well.
Cool. I love that. So as you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. So what's one of the little things that Kathleen does to help make the world a little bit better place?
I listen. I listen with an open heart. And so if there's a trouble, or if you're in pain, I'm going to be right there to help you talk about it, or just support you in it. Because, sometimes, like when we're in a grieving process, people don't want to talk. They just want you there. And I know how to do that very, very well. So I think just being there for people, and I'm working on, I haven't perfected it. I'm working on eye contact and smiling people I have never seen before. Because I don't know how far a smile can go, but I know it can save a life sometimes.
No, you're right. And that's, I think that's very important. So I love that answer. So Kathleen, I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to me. For folks out there listening, be sure to check out my other podcasts and blogs at journeymymotherson.com or danclouser.com. And also hop on over to Amazon, pick up a copy of my latest book, The Journey of My Mother's Son, Volume 1. While you're there, pick up copies of Kathleen's book as well. Kathleen, again, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
You bet. I enjoyed it.